Hello and welcome to Elecspo, and it is time to talk about Celtic and Rangers. As the dust began to settle last week around the European Super League fiasco, another report emerged stating that Celtic and Rangers could be on the move. According to The Sun, the old firm giants could become part of a British Super League as both sides leave the Scottish leagues behind and become part of the English pyramid. It caused a load of debate on whether they do well, how it would impact Scottish football, but when push comes to shove, this probably won't happen. We've had years of Celtic and Rangers being linked with joining the Premier League, all to no avail. But today I'm going to make it happen. Last year, using FM20, I did a video where I sent Celtic and Rangers to the Championship. It had mixed reviews. Rangers eventually spent their days near the bottom of the Championship, while Celtic narrowly avoided relegation from the Premier League year after year. But this time things could be different. I'm dumping both teams into the Premier League straight away, in place of the two bottom teams, Sheffield United and West Brom. I'm going to give this simulation 3 years, and after each year we'll check in to see how Celtic and Rangers have been getting on. And of course, if you want more of this simulation, a part 2, a part 3, a part 526, then let me know in the comments below, let me know by hitting the like button, and let me know by becoming a subscriber. But let's do it. Let's see how Celtic and Rangers get on in the Barclays Premier League. It's not even the Barclays anymore. Let's see how Rangers and Celtic get on in the Premier League. Okay, here we are at the start of the simulation, the 27th of July 2020, and the first thing Celtic need to do is find themselves a new manager. Obviously, a few months back, Neil Lennon left his post at Celtic Park. There's been talk about who's going to be coming in to Parkhead. Will it be Jose Mourinho? Will it be Rafa Benitez? Will it be Eddie Howe? At the time of recording, it looks like it's going to be Eddie Howe, but on Football Manager, who knows who it'll be. We look to the Premier League. This is the 20 teams who will be competing in the 2020-21 season. There's Rangers down in 16th. And there in 5th, we have got Celtic. The two old firm giants are finally in the Premier League. But just how well will they do? We've got to bear in mind, the other 18 teams, they've got Premier League money behind them. This is the first season Celtic and Rangers will be playing in England, so they might need a little time to find their feet. But let's simulate a year into the future. Let's see how both teams get on in England. Okay, here we are, the 13th of June 2021, the end of season 1 of this simulation. And as you can see, it's not gone well. It's gone very, very badly for Rangers. And even for Celtic, it hasn't been good particularly either. We'll start with Rangers. Poor old Rangers. In reality, they've just toppled Celtic to become champions of Scotland. But in this FM simulation, they have came rock bottom of the Premier League. They didn't even come close to survival. They've come 20th, only getting 26 points on the board. They were 10 shy of Crystal Palace, who came 17th. Let's check Rangers out. Philip Cocu now the manager. Going to assume Steven Gerrard has been sacked. 28th of February 2021, Steven Gerrard sacked. The man who has taken Rangers back to the top. The man who is being tipped to become the Liverpool manager in the future. In this simulation, he's been sacked. And to be honest, his reputation isn't at the same level it could have been. In reality, Steven Gerrard could have most jobs right now. Well, not most jobs. If he got the Liverpool job, some people would turn their heads, but some people would be like, well, yeah, let's give him a go. Rangers have won the title. Here, though, he has been sacked, sent to the breadline, out in the job centre, and replaced by Philip Cocu, who, despite arriving on the 1st of April, they spent a full month without a manager. Poor Gary McAllister had to spend a month as the caretaker. But anyway, they've got Philip Cocu now, last seen flopping at Derby County, and he couldn't do enough to keep Rangers in the Premier League. As for Celtic, they narrowly survived. They got 36 points to come 16th, a point above Fulham, who were the final team to go down. Celtic played Crystal Palace in a huge game on the final day. Meanwhile, Fulham were beaten 2-1 by Liverpool, ensuring it was them who dropped into the Championship. Obviously, Celtic and Crystal Palace, they got a point to jump onto 35. That meant it dumped Fulham into the bottom 3, and Celtic narrowly survived. But they are on the lookout for a new manager. At the start of the season, who did they appoint? Eddie Howe. How realistic? Didn't go well. He has been sacked at the end of his first season as Celtic manager, and that is extremely harsh considering, at least he kept them up. What more could you expect? When I set this simulation away, I thought if these two teams can survive, then season 1 has gone well. Unfortunately, Celtic are the only team that have survived. Let's look at how they've been getting. Well, actually, no. First, we'll have a look at the old firms. And Celtic are in the Champions League. Celtic even made it to the Champions League group stages. They've never been doing that. How far did they get in the Champions League? They came third in the group. They were in a group alongside Man United, Porto and Istanbul Başakşehir. Made it to the Europa League, where they were knocked out straight away by AC Milan. FA Cup, Celtic were knocked out by Liverpool in the quarters, fairly disappointing. And the League Cup, they were, how did they do? Beaten in the third round by Tottenham. How did the Old Firm games go? Let's have a look. Christ, Celtic's first ever win in the Premier League was a 1-0 win over Rangers. Odsonne Edouard with a goal in the second minute to hand Derby delight to Celtic. Their first ever home game in the Premier League. It was against Rangers and it was a 1-0 win. How did the reverse fixture go at Ibrox? Let's have a look. Oh, they met in the FA Cup as well, the fifth round, and it was a 3-0 win for Celtic. But later on in the season, while Rangers have gone down, they did get a little bit of glory back to the blue side of Glasgow, winning 2-1 at Ibrox. Celtic had a rotten end to the season, to be honest with you. They had a rotten 2021, to be honest. Not many wins at all from the turn of the year. I mean, it was quite a crap season, actually. Well, they did alright to start off. Oh, they were in the Betfred Cup still. Should have dumped them out of that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 2021 was rough for Celtic. I mean, the last time they won a game was the 14th of April against West Ham. And it was enough to keep them up. I mean, very, very close. So close for Celtic to be joining Rangers in the Championship. Let's have a look at how they got on in the cup competitions. The Europa League, they didn't make it through the groups. They were beaten in the groups. League Cup, they made it to the quarter final where they were beaten by Arsenal. FA Cup, they were beaten in the fifth round by Celtic, we obviously know that. And Rangers actually made it to the Betfred Cup final, their final chance of Scottish football, and they lost on penalties to Motherwell. Wow. Again, I mean, it looks deceptive here because Rangers had an okay start of the campaign. They won a few cup games, some Europa League games. But in the Premier League, a lot of defeats. Rangers lost 24 of their 38 games. They only won 6 all season. Celtic, they only won 9. I mean, 36 points isn't a particularly impressive tally. But at least they have survived. I mean, they can kick on next season. As for Rangers, they're going to have to build again. Celtic only spent £13 million. Not a lot of money for Celtic. But that should go up next season now. They're going to have Premier League money behind them. As for Rangers, there'll be no Premier League money for them. They'll get a parachute payments. Not quite sure. Haven't spent much at all. But they've signed Rafinha. 35 years old. I mean, great. You can just tell everyone about the time he used to play for Bayern Munich. What an odd player Rafinha was. Just seemed to be at Bayern for years, even though he was quite distinctly average. Anyway, this isn't about Rafinha. This is about Celtic and Rangers. One team's in the Premier League, the other's in the Championship. Let's go into year 2. Let's see how the Old Firm get on in separate divisions. Okay, here we are, the 12th of June 2022, the end of Season 2 of this simulation. We will start in the Premier League, it's the top division, and that's where Celtic are going to be in Season 3. Yet again, they've survived in the Premier League of English football, and this time, they haven't had any worries. It didn't come down to the final day, they weren't sweating on other results. Celtic have came 14th, they've finished above Newcastle, Aston Villa, Leeds, West Ham. Historic clubs in English football. Celtic have finished above them all. They got 42 points, 11 clear of the relegation zone, to ensure they will be playing Premier League football when we head into the third and final season of Part 1. I mean, I'm just assuming you're going to want Part 2. I'll find out in the comments below. Anyway, let's have a look at Celtic, managed by Carlos Corberán, previously known at Huddersfield and Leeds. Has he been the manager all season? Yes, he has. He joined them in the summer. What kind of money has he spent? £61 million. Celtic finally benefiting from getting some money into their bank accounts, and they've brought in a fair few players. The biggest arrival was George Baldock for a potential fee of £17.5 million. Jean-Pierre Nassam from Young Boys, I think he's a striker. Cameroonian, how's he got on? 12 Premier League goals. That is pretty impressive, especially considering Celtic lost Odsonne Edouard. I believe they lost him last season. Yeah, he went to Tottenham at the end of last season, so that's fine. So they replaced him with Nassam, and he has done bloody brilliantly. Who else have we got? Josias Izquierdo, I think that's the guy who was at Brighton, never been seen for years because of injury. £13 million, 8 goals, 3 assists. Average rating isn't great, but he's those numbers are pretty damn good. Solly March, a solid signing. Harry Pickering, Ron's son. Andras Sporra, good striker. Kenny Tete, he did well at Fulham. Well, he's doing alright in reality. Jordan Lukaku, the less successful Lukaku brother. And another good name there, Daniel Pedence on loan from Wolves. He's done alright. Average rating's good. Daniel Pedence is an excellent player to watch. Who's been sold? Volleyball and goalie, the COVID problem we'll just call him. Nia Beaton's been sold. A Jetty loaned out. Isuf Bayo, it really hasn't worked out for him at Celtic Park. But Celtic, they've finally been able to get some decent players in, and that's why they survived. Who has been the best player at Celtic Park? Jean-Pierre Nassam, average rating of 7.36, putting him ahead of Ryan Christie and Daniel Pedence. Solly March has done well, Callum McGregor's done well, Christopher Eye has done well, even Olivier Nacham, he's came back and he's done alright. Let's have a look at the schedule, see how Celtic have been getting on in the cup competitions. Fortunately for them, there's been no Betfred Cup palaver, just totally slipped my mind to be honest. League Cup, they made it to the quarter-finals where unfortunately they were beaten by Everton. As for the FA Cup, beaten in the 4th round. So that's a little bit disappointing. Need to see some kind of cup success in the coming years. But I mean, they had an okay start. 3 games in, they were unbeaten. They're scoring goals, they're having fun. Celtic having a great time in English football. I mean, they drew Man City early on. Have they got any wins against some of the big boys? 3-0 win over Liverpool in the League Cup. That's a fantastic win. Any other big wins that we can see? Beaten by Man City. A draw with Arsenal. No wins against the big boys that I can see, but that's fine. That's alright, the time will come. Celtic have survived in Season 2 and they're improving. That is the main thing. Now they're getting this money consistently coming in, they'll be able to compete. They've still got the fan base, they've still got the passionate supporters. Everything's grand. Now the players are coming in and Celtic are climbing the English Premier Division. Put me teeth in properly before we move on to the Championship. How have Rangers done? Rangers are coming straight back up. They came 3rd, meaning they had to go up through the playoffs, but go up they did. They got 85 points, which was 4 shy of Fulham, who they were relegated with last season, in the playoffs. They beat Nottingham Forest 3-2 on aggregate, setting up a final with Blackburn Rovers, and it was a 2-1 win at Wembley, the home of English football, that's sending Rangers back to the Premier League for Season 3. Let's have a look at this final, see how it went. They were 2-0 up quite early on. Kemar Roof and Yanis Hadji with the goals. Maldini, not that Maldini, got one back for Blackburn Rovers. Then they went down to 10 men. Then Rangers just had to see it out as they made it back to the Premier League. I mean, Rangers have been fantastic. Ben Brereton, 24 goals. Kemar Roof, the best player in the division. Glenn Kamara, 15 assists. It's been a wonderful season across the board for Rangers. Philip Cocu, after a slow start in the Premier League. I mean, he only arrived in April. But in the Championship, he's done brilliantly. And surprisingly, Rangers have spent more money than Celtic did. £70 million. But in fairness, they did get £62 million coming in the other way by selling players. They sold Morelos to Marseille for a potential fee of £30 million. They got £13 million for Philippe Hollander. Any other big tallies coming in? Oh yeah, there we are. Borna Barisic. Potential fee of £20 million to go to Krasnodar. That is what has allowed Rangers to rebuild this team. And what a team they've built. Ben Brereton, Juan Foyth, Nathan Redmond, Trevor Chalobah, Anwar El Ghazi, Jack Stevens. Who else have they got? Alex McCarthy, Dagba, Helder Costa. These are some good players. I mean, players who will be doing a job in the Premier League. And that is why they've got Rangers straight back up. I'm going to have a look at Nathan Redmond because I like that sign. That is a decent little sign for Rangers. He's just done okay actually. He must have joined in January. 11 appearances, 2 goals, 5 assists and an average rating of 7.01. But they're the kind of players who will serve Rangers well next season when they return to the Premier League. I mean, that is a much better season. There's not many defeats there. The first defeat came against Huddersfield early on. They were knocked out of the League Cup straight away by Leeds. That's fine. They probably didn't need it. A lot of draws. FA Cup, they made it to the 5th round where they were beaten by Premier League Spurs. But I mean, there's been a run here of some fantastic wins. Brilliant from Rangers. Only lost 7 games all season. It's draws that have cost them the title, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day because they are going straight back up to the Premier League. We'll have a quick look, see who the best player was, and it was Kemar Roofe. Him and Glenn Kamara, absolutely sensational. Connor Goulton's had a good season as well, so has James Tavernier. But can they step up next season when they get a second bite at the Premier League? Let's simulate another year into the future. Let's see how Season 3 goes with Rangers joining Celtic back in the Premier League. Okay, here we are, the third and final season we're going to look at today, the 18th of June 2023. And there's a lot to unpack here. We are going to start with Rangers because after the first season where they came rock bottom, this time they have survived in the Premier League. Only just, but that's fine, they've survived. They came 17th, 36 points on the board, 2 clear of Bournemouth to secure another season of Premier League football. It was last day drama that kept them up. It was between them and Bournemouth who were going down. Rangers started the day on 33 points in the relegation zone. There was Bournemouth, they were on 34. Bournemouth were playing safe Wolves and they got absolutely bad 3-0. That handed a huge chance to Rangers, who were playing Aston Villa, just safe themselves. And it was a 2-1 win for Rangers to put them up to 36 points ahead of Bournemouth and ensure they stay in the Premier League. And it was an 85th minute goal from Glenn Kamara that has kept them up. That is absolutely huge. What a return to the Premier League. After such a disappointing start of life, they've rebuilt in the Championship and now they're going to be staying in the Premier League. As for Celtic, they finished best of the rest. Christ, Tottenham have won the Premier League. Already this simulation is unrealistic. Forget Rangers staying in the Premier League, Celtic coming 7th. Tottenham have won the Premier League ahead of Liverpool and Man City. Anyway, Celtic, they've came 7th. 54 points. I mean, they were absolutely miles behind Man United in 6th. But that's fine. Celtic, the best of the rest. That's where probably some Hoops fans think Celtic could be if they were in the Premier League and were getting that money, substantially coming in every year. The best of the rest to get 54 points and come 7th. Let's check them out. Carlos Corberán, of course, still the manager. What kind of money have we spent? £59 million. It's a lot of money, but they could be spending more. It looks like they're going for quantity, not quality. I mean, they are signing quality, but getting a lot of bodies in. Davinson Sanchez on a free. Who else sticks out here? Benjamin Henrichs, very quick fullback. Lucas Piathon, Chelsea legend. Podence came back for another loan. Will Smallbone, player coming through at Southampton, he came on loan. Who else have we got? Jack Stacey from Fulham, I think he's at Bournemouth in reality. Any big players sold? They got rid of Tom Rogic. Izquierdo, moved him on straight away. James Forrest, gone to Strasbourg. That's quite disappointing. And Solly March loaned out. Let's have a look at the schedule. Let's see how Celtic got on in the cup competitions. And it was actually quite a disappointing start of the season. They got a draw, a win before they met Rangers in the League Cup second round, and Rangers won. Rangers won 2-1 to put themselves into the third round of the Carabao Cup to knock out Celtic and get early bragging rights for the Gers. How did the Old Firm games go? Let's have a look. The first came on the 3rd of January at Ibrox, and Celtic did an absolute job on them. 3-0 win, and Sam Mighty Johnson and David Turnbull with the goals in front of 50,000 fans in Ibrox. And 47,000 of them were absolutely crying. 3,000 Celtic fans going absolutely crazy. But unfortunately, it was a different story when the team. Well, unfortunately, if you're a Celtic persuasion, if you're a Rangers fan, you were jumping with delight when they met later on in the season, as they won 2-1. They came from behind at Celtic Park to win 2-1, and that'll have been a huge win for Rangers as they secured Premier League survival. Back to Celtic, they were knocked out of the FA Cup by Man City, but that is fine. A wonderful season from Celtic. The only thing that let them down was their performances in the Old Firm. They've played 3 times and they lost twice. But they've still achieved their best ever finish in English football. I mean, it's only the 3rd season, but that's still great. I'm damn impressed with Celtic. Have a look at the players. Who's been the star man? Albion Ajeti, 13 goals. And then Ryan Christie got 9. Maybe his goals have been a little bit harder to come by this season. Saying Sam hasn't played as much as he did the year before. He was very good the year before. David Turnbull, he's starting to make an impression. He's a great player. Callum McGregor did well, of course. Daniel Podence didn't play much. Karamoto Dembele, he's one to watch in part 2. Surely he's going to have an impact in the coming years. But let's move on to Rangers. As we say, they survived on the final day. Philip Cockett, still the manager, of course. Well, not of course, he could have got the sack. They spent £62 million, £27.5 million coming in the other way. Who did they sell? No one's sticking out. Oh, there you go. Joe Rebo to Brighton for £11.5 million. That was the big money maker. But who have they signed? They got James Garner on loan from Man United. Good deal. Joe Willock on loan. The man for the occasion. Get him off the bench and he will score you a goal. Brilliant player, Joe Willock. He's doing it fantastic in Newcastle. Big signing there. Well, we'll come back to actually. Ritsu Dawn from PSV. I like him. Manuel Akanji from Porto. Obviously, with Borussia Dortmund fame. I quite like Akanji, but he hasn't actually done very well here. Only played 4 times. Been pretty disappointed, to be honest with you. They got Matheus Pereira from West Brom. That's another good signing. And the big name, Giovanni Lo Celso from Tottenham. He hasn't even done that well, actually. 14 games, no goals, no assists, and an average rating lower than a 7. But surely most to come from Lo Celso. Some fantastic players signed by Rangers. I mean, I know they've came much lower down, but I'm more impressed with their transfer business than I am Celtic's. Their best player yet again, Kemar Roofe. James Garner was up there on loan from Man United. Hopefully, for their sake, they can get him back. Joe Willock's done well. Who was the top scorer? Kemar Roofe with 9. And then Hadji got 7. Is it Hadji or Hagi? Hadji, obviously. Scrap that. Who was the top scorer? It was Kemar Roofe with 9. Then you got Ianis Hadji with 7. So goals have been a little bit of a problem for Rangers. Something to work on when we return for part 2. But after 3 seasons, Celtic absolutely flying in the Premier League. Sure, they got a bit lucky the first season when they survived. But 3 seasons are in, and they've just came 7th in the Premier League. As for Rangers, first season was appalling, came rock bottom. Second season, they bounced back up, won the playoffs to get another place in the Premier League. And in season 3, on their return, they've survived on the final day. And that is where we're going to leave part 1. As I say, let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you want a part 2, if you want to see some more seasons from this Celtic and Rangers experiment, let me know. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Elecspo. And until next time, we will see you around.